So our belief systems in RTI is no child will be left behind. We don't care what we call them. No child's going to be left behind. It doesn't matter about IQ. It doesn't matter about family background. They're all coming with us. We're going to take them as far as we can go with them, and we're going to walk the walk with them. It is okay to provide differential services across students. Not all students are alike. So we have to have a recipe, maybe, I don't know, a menu of various interventions, because not all interventions will work for all kids. So we look at the complexity of the child in the intervention. This is the thing that I think is probably the most important point that I talk to teachers about: academic engagement time. What we know in the research is the more the kids are engaged with the curriculum and instruction, the more they're going to learn. The growth is going to increase dramatically. So how do we increase academic engagement time? How are the interventions when we look at Lexia and we look at how children interact with the Lexia program, or how teachers interact with your menu and advice about the delivery of the instruction, and then combine that together to increase academic engagement time? Now I'm going to tell you all something that I tell every team that I train. The best avenue, and this actually helps with documentation, and I was in a due process hearing, and I'll tell you about that in a second. The best avenue to connect the child to the instruction, to the intervention, to the curriculum, is learning styles. If you know the child's learning strengths and weaknesses, and the teacher is aware of it, they can build a differentiation of instruction around that. Now, I was involved in a due process hearing, and that's where our case law is formulated. And just to let you know, case law is what really drives how a teacher and a principal delivers instruction, because we all are aware of federal laws. And in this particular case, the first thing we did with the student who was a struggling reader, and actually it's a school district that uses Lexia as well, and the student was a struggling reader. The first thing that team did was they handed the teacher a learning style inventory that the teacher sat down and went through with the student. And then, based on that learning style inventory, we talked about the importance, because the child was a very visual learner and had a lot of kinesthetic needs as well, but the computer-based learning, seeing the visuals, and then using some of the manipulatives in the classroom, well, we just aligned all that with the Tier 1 interventions and then what they were doing in Tier 2 at Lexia. And at the due process hearing, the attorney for the parents said, Dr. Ogonosky, you wrote in your report that this teacher does differentiation of instruction and aligns it with the Tier 2 intervention. What did you mean? They asked me that in the due process hearing. So that was easy. Look at Exhibit XYZ. See his learning style inventory? See this, this, and this? This is what I saw. When I walked into the classroom, the teacher had a word wall. Now, a word wall is a very effective tool. It is one of the best strategies teachers can use to connect kids to learning in a second grade class, first grade class. Now, let's talk about the word wall. And then I just started listing the things that I did a 1 minute, 2 minute walkthrough. And within that 2 minutes, I was connected right back to that learning style inventory. But then when they interviewed the teacher, well, it wasn't really an interview. Due process isn't an interview. It's not very friendly. But when they were asking the teacher questions, she was able to take that information up into Tier 2. She was going to say, now, we have a Tier 2 interventionist. And they used a reading intervention program. And this is how that reading intervention program aligns with what I'm doing back here in the classroom. So there's a complete alignment between the tiers. And that is so important. When you look at Lexia and you look at how you present Lexia as in your tiered of intervention, what we do in Tier 2 should not be exponentially different than what we're doing in Tier 1, with one exception: instructional level. In Tier 1, the kids are on grade level. In Tier 2 and Tier 3, they're on their own instructional level because we're building foundational skills. But if we have a kid, and this is tax, if we have a kid that's in Tier 2, and they're over here with an interventionist working with Lexia on a foundational skill, if back in Tier 1 the teacher is not promoting that and integrating it into her direct instruction and maybe an independent practice, the student still will not pass tax, because the child has to learn how to connect that foundational skill back into instructional level. And so some of our teachers are not aware of the importance of connecting what we do in the various tiers and how the intervention. And I tell people all the time, the intervention is not a program. But the teachers think they can press a button or fill out a chart and that's the intervention. The intervention is the people delivering whatever program or instruction that you're using. Now, having a strong foundation is important, But the integrity of the whole process is in how it's done, and is it done correctly.